We are 5 days away from the release of Epic, the Ocean Saga, so here's a recap of everything that's happened in the story so far. Saga 2, the Cyclops Saga. The saga begins with Song 6, Polyphemus. Odysseus and a group of his men are investigating the cave that the Lotus Eaters told him about in Saga 1. Odysseus just finished hunting a sheep inside the cave, and Eurylochus and Polites are in awe at the amount of food and sheep inside this dark cave. Odysseus, however, is skeptical, wondering why, if the cave was so full with food, did the Lotus Eaters resort to eating lotus instead? And immediately after he says this, a giant eyeball opens in the darkness behind them, and the voice of a Cyclops says, The tension rises as the soldiers are frozen in fear in front of the Cyclops. Odysseus steps forward and tries to handle the situation peacefully.
We're just travelers. Come in peace.
But Polyphemus is not having it. See, remember the sheep that Odysseus killed at the beginning of the saga inside the cave? That happened to be Polyphemus's favorite sheep. And so Polyphemus is not happy about this, and he decides he wants to eat all of the soldiers, justifying it as, So Odysseus is all like, hey, what if you didn't do that? Odysseus makes an offer to Polyphemus.
I'll give you our finest treasure, so long as we live alive. You can keep the world's best tasting wine.
So Odysseus offers him this wine, justifying it as a gift from each other instead of taking from each other. So Polyphemus actually accepts the wine and asks Odysseus what his name is. And Odysseus tells him that his name is... But instead of letting them all go, Polyphemus has another gift for them in mind.
You shall be the final man to die.
And without warning, Polyphemus lunges forward to attack, and we jump right into Song 7, Survive, which is a massive boss battle. Keep in mind that Epic pulls a lot of inspiration from video games and anime, so boss battles are kind of a recurring thing in the show. So Odysseus and his men are taking on Polyphemus the Cyclops, and it's an epic battle. Odysseus immediately reads the situation and identifies Polyphemus' weaknesses, mainly being that
He's strong but he's slow. He can't land a blow if we're out of reach.
So they're going under him, they're striking his heels, they're staying out of reach, they're going in, striking, getting out, it's super cool. And for a bit, they're actually winning. Polyphemus even retreats into the cave, but suddenly, Polyphemus reaches deep into the darkness for something, and out of nowhere he swings a giant club and hits none other than Odysseus' best friend, Polites.
Captain.
Enough.
So Odysseus, after seeing his best friend get smushed right in front of him, goes into shock and is frozen while more of his men get flattened one after the other. And it all looks hopeless until suddenly the Cyclops passes out and boom, lands right on the floor, shaking the entire cave. And everyone's like, what? And now we begin Song 8, Remember Them. Odysseus is staring at Polites' remains until Eurylochus snaps him out of it. Odysseus immediately starts giving orders to his men, and he reveals to them that he took the lotus from the last island and mixed it into the wine that he gave to the Cyclops, causing the Cyclops to eventually pass out. He then commands his men to use their swords to sharpen the end of the Cyclops' club, turning it into a giant spear. And everybody's like, yeah, let's kill him! But Odysseus is like,
His body is blocking the path. If we kill him, we'll be stuck inside. Captain, where do we attack him? We gotta stab him in the eye. Yes, sir.
So they all huddle together, they take the giant spear, and they thrust it into the Cyclops' eye. And Polyphemus wakes up screaming in pain, and everybody hides. And then, when it looks like the soldiers finally have the advantage again, the worst possible thing happens. More Cyclopes show up. And so Eurylochus is like, Captain, we should run, and everybody's freaking out. But Odysseus is like, no, wait. So the Cyclopes ask Polyphemus, who hurt you? And because earlier Odysseus lied about his name, this is the interaction that follows. So the other Cyclopes leave, and Odysseus is like, okay, now let's take the sheep and go. But then, you know who decides to show up? None other than the one and only Athena, goddess of war.
Have you forgotten the lessons I taught you? He's still a threat until he's dead. Finish it.
But then Odysseus looks around at the remains of Polites and his fallen comrades and all of the bloodshed that happened because Polyphemus didn't want to treat them with mercy. And Odysseus refuses. He leaves the Cyclops alive, wanting to teach him a lesson and also make him regret not wanting to spare his men.
The next time that you dare, choose not to spare. Remember them. Remember us. Remember me.
And to really make sure that the Cyclops doesn't forget, Odysseus reveals his true name, yelling it out, "I am Odysseus!" And rather than a triumphant crescendo of music, everything goes quiet. And the Cyclops sits up, faces them, with blood dripping out of his eye socket, and just smiles at them in the distance as they're sailing away. And that's what we're left with. Song 9 begins with Odysseus once again being pulled into quick thought. Athena is not happy that Odysseus didn't listen to her. She calls him reckless, sentimental. She says that he's grown soft. She even rubs salt in the wound by bringing up Odysseus' dead friends. And after all that, Athena says, "I'm done." No longer acting as Odysseus' mentor. And Odysseus is angry too, and he's not having any of that. So he calls her selfish and prideful and vain and criticizes her for her inability to feel anything for the fallen comrades. And then he basically gives her the musical equivalent of good riddance. And so the two go back and forth a bit more, insulting each other, and it reaches a climax when Odysseus says this.
Since you claim you're so much wiser, why's your life spent all alone? You're alone!
And so Athena takes a second and says that one day you'll understand me, but not today. And so Athena leaves, and Odysseus is left with the stars in the night sky and the sound of wind picking up in the distance. By the end of the Cyclops saga, Odysseus has suffered his first major losses in the story. His best friend died, more of his soldiers died, and his mentor left him. We are left to wonder what Odysseus will do to get home now, and whether his act of mercy will come with rewards or consequences. And so that's the story so far. Saga 3 will pick up some time later with Odysseus and his men sailing towards Ithaca. I'm excited to share this next part of the story with you guys, and if you want to pre-save it, check my page.